Hello everybody and welcome back to the Leeds Lens. In this video I'm going to be doing something slightly different to what I did earlier, and I'm basically going to be looking at why Leeds United signed Calvert-Lewin. So what are the positives behind Leeds United signing Calvert-Lewin? We know the injuries are an issue, we know potentially his goal scoring record and his finishing ability is an issue, but why actually did Leeds United sign him? What are the positives around this deal? Because let's be honest, with every deal there are negatives and there are positives. In my opinion, this was a poor deal. However, I think there are key positives because nothing's ever 100% negative nor 100% positive. Everything's sort of in the middle at times. And yes, this time I'm weighing obviously on the side of negative. I don't think this was a good addition. However, as I said, key positives. So, and I think there is a couple. I don't think there's just one or two. I think there is a number of different actual reasons as to why Leeds United have gone for the services of Calvert-Lewin. And the first one I want to talk about is his aerial ability. Now, this guy is one of the best in the air in the Premier League. And he has been for years now. The man's jump is outrageous. However, of course, if that is going to be the case, he's going to need to be, the supply chain is going to need to be there for him, which is why we still need number 10, I think, to help support and help deliver them balls in for Calvert-Lewin to get onto the end of. And it also requires, obviously, the wing-backs to get involved as well, or the full-backs in terms of Goodmanson and Bogle. Them early crosses are going to be massive if we are going to get the best out of Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And not just that, I think, obviously, the number 10 is going to be important, as I said, the full-backs are going to be important, but the wingers are going to be massively important as well. And this is where I want to see Dan James at his best. Because Dan James is best hitting that byline, getting the ball into the back post and getting Calvert-Lewin involved. Because there's majority of centre-backs in the league, Calvert-Lewin without jump. Yes, the likes of Van Dijk are really good in the air. Yes, the likes of James Tarkowski are really good in there. But Calvert-Lewin is a really, really dominant forward in the air. Probably will come in as the best forward actually in the air in the whole Premier League. And that sounds a mad statement to say, but that's how good this man is in the air. And the other thing to mention with his aerial ability is not just what it possesses going forward, but it's also what it possesses in defensive opportunities for us as well. Because one of the ways that a lot of newly promoted teams get relegated is they struggle with the physicality of the game. That has always been a key concern. We even saw Russell Martin on Sky Sports last season talk about why Southampton struggled. And obviously we can look at sort of the way that Southampton played as an obvious negative. But Russell Martin named the key reason as they were lacking physicality, and they didn't have the physicality in the team to compete in the Premier League. And if you're not going to compete on a physical level, you're never going to win. You can't just rely on sort of having quote-unquote ballers or sort of technically gifted players to survive. You have got to equal that up with physicality. And I think one thing that Leeds United have looked at this summer is to ensure that physicality is there in the side, which is where, again, Dominic Calvert-Lewin will be fantastic, because he'll be fantastic at doing stuff like defending set pieces and actually taking set pieces, rather than being a huge negative for Leeds United, into a huge positive. We saw last time we got promoted under Bielsa, corners and defensive situations and even attacking situations from set pieces were an absolute nightmare for Leeds. We never really scored, and that's been an issue under Daniel Farke throughout his time, which I think nobody's mentioning. Since Farke's come in, do you remember the first year of Daniel Farke, where we basically never scored a corner, and it was like a big joke how many corners we took them without any end final product or any sort of contributions to the goal tally from set pieces. Well, with the signs we've made, with the likes of Biol already, we know Rodon is actually good in the air when he's got the chance. We know Strout's fantastic in the air. Stack at 6'4", if he's not taking set pieces, if we get that set piece taker, he'll be in the box as well. And obviously, with the additional Calvert-Lewin, that is a fantastic four of trying to actually of sort of getting the best out of set pieces. And this is something that Everton and Burnley did for a long time, of getting the best out of set piece scenarios. But not just that, not just getting the best offensively, but also getting the best in defensive scenarios as well. Because Calvert-Lewin is a fantastic header of the ball in both boxes. So from defensive corners, we shouldn't struggle too much if we've got Calvert-Lewin, Biol, Stack and Rodon all on the pitch, for example. That should be a real positive for us, set pieces. So that's one thing to mention. His aerial ability is utterly, it was truly fantastic. That is an absolute fact. The next benefit, and this sort of blends in potentially with the first aerial ability thing, is his tactical fit in the team, because we need a striker. When I look at the attributes that Perot's got, when I look at the attributes that sort of Nemecha's got, Nemecha's not as bad at this. Nemecha is quite good at holding the ball up, but Calvert-Lewin is fantastic at holding the ball up and linking play. That is one of his key strengths. So when we're struggling at, say, Arsenal away, and Bogle's got it at right back and he's being pressed to oblivion, the ability to be able to go long and go into Calvert-Lewin, him to chest it down, either win a free kick or bring others into play, is going to be a key component for Leeds United getting out of that press. Because in the Premier League, even the mid-table teams are some of the best pressing teams in the country. The likes of Bournemouth are superb pressers under Andoni Iraola. So the ability to get out from the defensive third into the attacking third through the use of obviously long balls. And sort of bypassing that press is going to be a fantastic attribute, and a perfect man to take that ball, shield it, and win a free kick or lay it off is Dominic Calvert-Lewin. That is another key attribute for him. And that's when I look at, because my initial reaction to this obviously was one of negativity, and it still is in the most part, as I've mentioned. But when you look at sort of the other strikers available, the likes of Jamie Vardy, yes, he's 37, and that's obviously a concern, and Calvert-Lewin's only 28, so that is a positive for him. But not only that, another key positive for Dominic Calvert-Lewin is the way he fits the system. Jamie Vardy is a player that likes the ball in behind. He likes something to run onto. He isn't someone that's going to receive the ball on his chest, shoulder it off from a big defender, and then bring us into play. That isn't his game. So yes, he might be a better finisher, and yes, his injury record might be better. But actually, when he's playing, is he actually going to fit the system? Probably not. And that's where we've got to look at the strikers that Leeds United are bringing in. I think Leeds United did need this big number 9. And if you look at the sort of the profiles that we've looked at in the past, the number 1 target, for example, Rodrigo Muniz, that is another key strength of his ability to take the ball in the chest and bring others into play, and also run the channels really well. And that's the next point, which is his ability to run the channels and also almost when there's a lost cause. Nothing is a lost cause with Calvert-Lewin up front, because he's fantastic at pressing down and sort of winning the ball back in 50-50 scenarios. Say if we sometimes knock it long, it don't go in the correct spot, but it gets knocked down the line. Calvert-Lewin is fantastic at running the lines. This was a key sort of strength when he was at Everton. So yeah, and that is another key few key attributes that Calvert-Lewin can offer this team. And I think the sort of final main point that I really, really like about the Calvert-Lewin signing of all thing is actually what the price that we've paid for him. We've paid nothing. Now this is fantastic, because yes, Leeds United want an expensive number 9. We want a number 10. We want a winger. We want a fullback. But I believe, to be honest, we couldn't afford to get. I think when you've listened and read between the lines between what Graham Smythe and other journalists have said, I don't think Leeds could afford to buy £40 million on Muniz, £30 million on El Canoes, that's 70 million, another 30 million on a winger, that's 100 million, and another fullback who's another 10 million, that's another 110 million on already the 70 or 60 to 70 million we spent. I don't think Leeds could afford to have a window where we spend 160, 170 million. I think we're more looking at the sort of 130, 140 million price point, because the thing to bear in mind with Leeds United is that we haven't actually sold anybody. Like, Sunderland are going to probably end up spending more than Leeds United, but they've lost a key member of their midfield in Joe Bellingham. Leeds not done that. Leeds could have sold Tanaka. We could have sold Pascal Strack. We haven't done that. So to manage to get the best players possible in the team, I think sometimes you've got to sort of limit positions and understand that the money can only go so far. And what is a better scenario for Leeds United? A £30 million winger and Calvert-Lewin up front, or just Muniz up front, for example, and no winger? And that's where potentially the Calvert-Lewin thing comes more into play. Now, obviously, Calvert-Lewin's on big money. That's no doubt about it. He's probably on 80 to 100 grand a year. But that works out to 100 grand a year, 100 grand a week, should I say, is 5.2 million a year. That's how much it costs. If you were bringing in a big name striker, say you bring in Dovbyk, he's probably going to demand 80 grand a week at least. Plus, you're going to be paying 35 million for his services. So we've basically, all right, so you might save 2 million on the wages, not even that, 1 million on wages. But you've actually had to pay 30 million for his services or 35 million for his services. So the Calvert-Lewin not having to do that gives that purse back into Leeds United. We've already seen in the window as well that Leeds do have money to spend in the sort of attacking thirds. Like, we've bidded over 30 million for Igor Paixão. We've bidded over 30 million for Muniz. That money's not gone anywhere. That's still able to spend. But now, rather than having to spend it on a striker, we can look into the market and get the exact winger we want, hopefully, and get the exact number 10 we want. If it's El Canoes, if it's Buonanotte, we know the price tag for El Canoes is around about the 30 million mark. We know Buonanotte is 39 million for what we said of the day. Maybe that opens the door for Leeds United to do one of them and get them A grade targets in them positions, because we've limited what we spent in the striker position. The only sort of trade-off I would say to that is, I do think that when you rate the window, you've got to rate in terms of incomings and outgoings. That is part of the window. And I don't think Leeds United, this window, I think in previous windows, with the sellers of Archie Gray, the money we got for Rutter, I don't think they were bad sales. I think actually Archie Gray at 40 million is not a bad price point, to be perfectly honest. But this summer we haven't seen good fees for anybody. Woba's gone out on loan. We haven't got off the bill Jack Harrison yet. And these players could have brought in them few millions that would have helped the situation. And the other thing to mention is we haven't... What I thought Leeds United might do this window is go and sell a Tanaka. I know this sounds mad, but I'm going to explain the reason behind it. Go and sell a Tanaka, go and sell a Pascal Struijk, and get some money on a PSR book, because they are probably our best two assets in terms of PSR. Tanaka we paid £3 million for, I believe, on a 4-year deal. So that's about 750 grand a year that he depreciates by, which means that this summer, if you sold him for over £3 million, you'd be making a nice profit on him straight away. Also, apologies by the way, I'm quite warm. It's happens to be the hottest day in the country today. But yeah, with Tanaka, his book value is probably £3 million, just shy of. We could probably sell Tanaka for 30 million quid, so we could bank a £27 million profit this summer and put that into his transfer and potentially get a striker. So yes, the free option has been fantastic in terms of bringing Calvert-Lewin in, but would we have been better selling Pascal Struijk for 30 million quid or selling a Tanaka for 30 million quid and banking a 30 million profit on one of them two, rather than just sort of going for the next tier down striker options? Because there is problems with Calvert-Lewin, as I mentioned. The injury issue is the main concern of all of this for me, and his poor finishing. Because on the deck, he's not particularly great in terms of his finishing ability. As I said, in his last, I think, 3 or 4 seasons, he's had 25.52 XG and only actually scored 12 goals. That is poor finishing. But he is good aerially, so we've got to play to that strength. And you're not going to get the perfect strike when you go up. Everybody knows that. But the other thing, of course, the major concern is that injury issue. And yes, he's had broken toes and he's had ankle injuries, and they're not the biggest issues. The main issue is that hamstring injury, because if you do your hamstring, anyone knows who's done the hamstring. Thankfully, touch wood, I haven't been in that crew yet. You basically continue to do it. It's one of them where you weaken it and then it's much harder than to stay fit. Although he has had, I think in the last 2 seasons, he's actually put up decent numbers in terms of games played. But yeah, there is cons with Calvert-Lewin. Everybody knows the cons. But I did think I'd make a video around about the sort of the advantages of what we've done in the market. And then, as I said, the main advantages: aerial ability, massive. The way he actually tactically fits, and I think he actually is the perfect in terms of a profile. Probably a perfect sort of number 9 that we needed, in my opinion, in terms of the ability to take the ball from a Bogle, a long pass, and take it in his chest and bring people into play. Also, his aerial ability is massive, as I mentioned, and also the fact that he's on a free is massive, because it helps us then to spend money on other positions. Because, yeah, Sunderland have spent more, but they've also cashed in on Bellingham, and he was a pure profit player as well, near on Tanaka, where they paid a really cheap fee and got over... Did they get over 30 million quid in the end? So that's something to bear in mind. But, yeah, overall, probably this video, the video I did earlier today, which I will leave a link to at the end, which you can basically click it and have a look. I was probably over-egging the pudding a bit, potentially. But I was in the moment. I didn't want Calvert-Lewin. I still don't really want Calvert-Lewin. However, I do... As I said, with everything, it's never 100% positive and it's never 100% negative. And I think with Calvert-Lewin, hopefully in this video, I've explained some of the main advantages around Calvert-Lewin. And I'll just check my notes to make sure I've mentioned the lot of it. But I think for the most part, I have. But yeah. Yeah, I have. But yeah, so yeah, thanks all for watching as always. And the final thing that I did want to mention as well in this video is that the price point as well, I think, is a key factor. And the thing I didn't mention, which I've just seen, is that with Rodrigo Muniz, who was obviously a key target for Leeds United, that was going to come in at £43 million. Does anyone actually want to spend 43 million on Muniz? I know I was keeping quite quiet, probably, but realistically, Muniz is not worth 43 million. So, you know, that is something to bear in mind. And also, as I said, would have played into the kitty. But yeah, thanks all for watching as always, and I will catch you all in the next one, everybody. Bye for now.